And welcome to the Bright Side, friends. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for being here. 844-236-6010 is our number if you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs. If you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we love hearing from you. 844-236-6010. And we can help you wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program like the one designed by Doc Wallach and all the folks at Longevity. Longevity products can be purchased at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can also sign up to join the Brightside Ben team off the websites brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products. So all available at truthtreatments.com and our 1,000 plus 4- and 5-star reviews at truthreviewed.com. 844-236-6010 is our number today. We've got Nancy Dennison coming up in our third segment. I am super excited to talk to Nancy. She's written several books. She's a former very successful trial lawyer, health lawyer actually, and she had a near-death experience I think 26 years ago, in 1994, and she's written several books about it. I've been obsessed with near-death experiences since I first read Life After Life by Ray Moody in the late 1970s. But over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I just can't get enough of this stuff. I think it's just such a powerful concept and idea, and I don't know how anybody can think that there's not something happening. There's not something going on with all of these near-death experiences that are out there. Now there's near-death experience radio, and there's zillions with a Z, literally, I don't know, countless near-death experience YouTube videos, and there's near-death experience peer-reviewed literature, and there's incredible books on near-death experiences. I'm sure most people know what I'm talking about when I say near-death experiences. When you die, technically you're dead on the operating table or in some other setting. By technically dead, I mean you don't have any heartbeat, and you don't have any brain waves going if you're in a hospital and they're measuring your brain waves. You're dead by all technical measures, but yet you have experiences, and when they bring you back, you can talk about these experiences. And not only that, but the experiences, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, are amazingly beautiful and inspiring and loving. It just gives, they're just the most, I've always thought the most important thing for us to understand in our life is death. We avoid death. We avoid talking about death. We avoid thinking about death. It's the great taboo. It's the biggest taboo. It's also the greatest adventure if you believe in this near-death experience idea, the concept of near-death experiences. And I don't know how you can deny it, actually. In fact, if you're out there and you think it's baloney and you do deny it, I'd love to hear from you. And tell me how. I've heard doctors say things like, or medical professionals or scientists say like, well, it's oxygen deprivation in the brain, and when you have your brain is deprived of oxygen, you go into these hallucinatory states, and they call them hallucinations. The problem is, when people are in their near-death experience state, they see things and hear things that they have no business seeing and hearing, and they come back and report them. So they can see things on the top of a building. How did they get to the top of a building? Or they can hear their loved ones talking about their impending demise in the waiting room. They float out of their body, they float out of the operating room, they float into the waiting room, they can see their parents or their loved ones in distress. So there's really, anybody who disputes the reality of these things and claims that they're hallucinatory or they're based in some kind of hypoxic, low oxygen state of the brain really doesn't understand near-death experiences. Anyway, we're going to talk to Nancy Dennison. Not only does she have a really powerful near-death experience, but she also saw some interesting things from a prophecy standpoint. She's written 5 books now, the Backwards trilogy, I guess you say. Backwards, Returning to Our Source for Answers, the Backwards Guidebook, and Backwards Beliefs. She also has 2 new books, one on religion and one on her newest book is called Create a New Reality. We've got so much to talk about, Nancy. We're definitely not going to get to talk about everything that I'd like to talk about with Nancy Dennison. Her website is nancydennison.com, and we'll be speaking to Nancy in our third segment. All right, so we've been talking about the nature of fats, and really it points to the nature of the invisible world, the idea that the invisible world precedes the visible world, the implicate precedes the explicate, and we always focus on the explicate, we always focus on the outside, but you know what, folks? When you focus on the outside, you lose your power. Everything in our world wants us, I'm not sure if it's intentionally, but the net effect is to take our power away from us. Everything. The news takes your power away from you. Politics takes your power away from you. The medical model takes your power away from you. Your job takes your power away from you. Everything that we honor and deify takes our power away from us. Our power resides in us. Even God and religion take our power away from us. That's why Jesus came and said the kingdom of heaven is within. It's within. You got to turn within. You got to go inside. That's where our power lies, from the invisible world. If you don't understand the invisible world, you're going to lose your power in the visible world, period. That's why we hit biochemistry so hard, and that's why I talk about quantum and all these seemingly abstract and abstruse ideas. So fats, the nature of fats, is going to be missed. We're going to miss the nature of fats if we don't see it at the smallest, most invisible level, which is the quantum or the electronic level, we'll say. Forget quantum, because that freaks everybody out when you hear that word. The electronic level, the electron level. Electron, i.e. electronic. At the electron and the electronic level, fats are distinct from water, and that gives them completely different characteristics. They stick around, and they're harder to extract. They're sticky. Just think of an oil stain in your shirt. You get an oil stain in your shirt, it ain't coming out. You get a water stain in your shirt, there's lots of ways to get that out. Because oil sticks. Peanut butter sticks on the knife. If you put your knife with peanut butter in the dishwasher, it's not coming off. Or if it does come off, it's not going to come off very well. Fats stick. They're harder to extract for the same reason, because they stick to foods. That means your gallbladder has to be working. If you had your gallbladder out, you could still function and you could still get by, and there's things you can do, so don't freak out if you had your gallbladder taken out. But if you don't have it taken out, keep it, because your gallbladder has bile, which is your body's fat extraction liquid. They call it the soap. Bile is so unbelievably important and underappreciated, like much of the body. There's fats, by the way, that have some interesting pain relief. I should say anti-inflammatory pain relieving properties. They're pain relieving properties not because they're like opioids that take care of pain. They're pain relieving properties because they suppress inflammation. Fats are your molecules of inflammation and your molecules of anti-inflammation. It's so important. Fats are the molecules of inflammation and the molecules of anti-inflammation. And there's a couple fats that are really important. There's for pain relieving. That's the endocannabinoids, the cannabinoid system, marijuana, pot, THC, whatever you want to call it. The endocannabinoids are so underappreciated. I was just reading how the governor of Colorado just pardoned 2,700 people who were criminalized somehow. I don't know if they went to jail, but they were somehow criminalized for marijuana possession. Marijuana contains cannabinoids that are exactly the same as in your body, and so much so that some people believe that these cannabinoids are essential nutrients. And we talked about how phytonutrients may be essential, like vitamins and minerals, and it's only because we didn't have the detection mechanisms when they came up with the list of essential nutrients in the 1930s and 1940s, basically, that we marginalized the phytonutrients as essential. Well, it turns out there's some people who believe that the cannabinoids are essential. And that's why people gravitate towards cannabinoid-containing substances, legal or not. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Nancy Dennison in our third segment. We'll get to your calls next. Okay, we are back on the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Hang tight if you're on hold. We'll get to you in a moment. Nancy Dennison will be talking to us about her near-death experience and a really interesting vision that she had in our third segment. I'm looking forward to speaking to Nancy. I've been reading her books now. I read one of her books a couple years ago, actually, and I've been reading the other two books over the last month or so. She actually has 5 books now about the near-death experience and about spirituality, and she is a former trial lawyer. How do you like that? No airy-fairy woo-woo here. Former trial lawyer, has a near-death experience, and like many people who have near-death experiences, they change their lives. This is a quote from her book. Quote, "I cherished my beyond-death experience as spiritual and indeed transformational, but kept it mostly to myself. Its power compelled me to make drastic changes in my own life." That happens a lot, by the way. "Including leaving my big law firm in favor of hanging up my own shingle. Now, after 12 years of soul-searching and integrating the experience, time is pressuring me to fulfill a promise I made myself before returning to my body. To communicate to anyone who will listen what I learned of our true nature and why we are here, so that more of us may understand that each of us has the power inside to change our life and our future simply by awakening to the wonder of who we truly are," unquote. Her book's filled with stuff like that. Powerful, inspirational stuff. We are greater than we have any... We can't even conceive of our greatness but we can get close to conceiving of it. We can't get close. We can experience our greatness, and we can get close to conceiving of it just by pondering the nature of a cell, the nature of the quanta, the nature of perception, the nature of our souls and spirituality. There's so many ways. The numinous in general. Numinous. That's a word you want to learn if you don't know that word. Numinous. A guy named Rudolf Otto came up with that word I think it was in the 1800s, 19th century. Rudolf Otto talked about the numinous. The numinous is just the mysterious awesomeness of the universe. There's no other. He had to make up a word because there's no word for it. All right, so we'll get your calls here in a sec, 844-236-6010. We were talking about the endocannabinoids. The endocannabinoids are part of this whole fat family that we've been talking about, the endocannabinoids. Endo meaning inside, cannabinoids refers to a family of fat molecules that are found in many plants, mostly the cannabis plant, cannabinoids, cannabis, and also the marijuana plant. Those are the most famous cannabinoid-containing plants, but there's cannabinoids pretty much everywhere. They're phytonutrient. They're in hops, they're in sage, they're in rosemary, they're in oregano. I remember when I was growing up, they used to make jokes about smoking oregano. Little did they know that oregano is a good source of cannabinoids. Endocannabinoids are the same molecules, or the same family of molecules, as phytocannabinoids, plant cannabinoids. Just like estrogen, there's estrogen in our body, and there's phytoestrogens. There's this overlap between the vegetable or plant kingdom and the human kingdom in terms of our neurochemistry and plant chemistry. Plants don't have neurochemistry; they have whatever they call it. I don't know there's probably a term for it, but phytochemicals and neurochemicals and biochemicals in the body, there's sometimes overlap, and that's where the cannabinoids fit in. There's a couple other interesting fats that have anti-inflammatory properties and pain-relieving properties. Acetyl Myristoliate, CM cream from Longevity. Doc Wallach was one of the first guys to understand the power of acetyl myristoliate for arthritis and for joint pain and for back pain. Acetyl myristoliate is a fat. It's a fatty acid, or a derivative of a fatty acid, myristolic acid. Acetyl myristolate is an ester of a fatty acid, technically speaking, and it's found in animal products. Animal fat contains acetyl myristoliate. Lard is actually a great source of acetyl myristoliate. And lard has a tradition of being an anti-inflammatory topical. People would put lard on their arthritis or on their joints or on their inflammation historically. Little did they know it was acetyl myristoliate, among other compounds. There's probably other things in there that have anti-inflammatory properties too. And there's a third interesting one that you can buy on the internet. I'll tell you what that is when we continue talking about our fats and the fatty family for growth, for repair, for stress management, for pain relief, for anti-inflammation. As we continue talking about the fats versus water, lipophilic versus hydrophilic on the bright side. All right, Nancy Dennison coming up in our third segment. 844-236-6010 is our number. Time to hit the phones. Let's see what our friend Dorian has to say. Dorian in Virginia. We get to Dorian. What's up, Dorian? How you doing, buddy?
Hi, Ben. I'm doing great. Thanks. I was just calling regarding your guest yesterday, actually, and it was very...
What'd you think? Dane Stevens. What'd you think of him?
He was great.
Yeah, wasn't he great? I loved him.
He was.
Yeah.
I had a question regarding freeing your stress from your mind. How do you do that?
Oh, you want? That's a great question.
Yeah.
How do you free your stress from? How do you loosen stress? We'll say. I think that's what you mean, right? So here's the deal with stress. Okay, and I use the term angst. ANGST. I like that term because that encompasses anxiety, it encompasses stress, it encompasses distress. It's just all the yucky feelings that we have. I call them angst. ANGST. So how do we deal with that? And Dane alluded to it, but he didn't. I didn't ask him too much about it, so we didn't really get into it. But it's very important to recognize that we have a mental aspect to our angst and a somatic aspect to our angst. And what happens is the somatic is the feeling. That is a feeling aspect and a mental aspect. The feeling aspect, the somatic aspect, is neutral. It's just energy. We label it mentally. And the key is to separate the two. The key is to delabel the feeling of angst. First, to identify it. Like right now, Dorian, think of something crappy. You don't have to say what it is. Just think of it. Do you feel it in your body?
Yes,
okay.
A little.
Okay. Well, notice it because it's there. If you're not feeling it a lot, then you're somehow disassociated from it. Dive into it. Where is it in your body?
I felt in my arms. a little bit.
Dive deeper, because it's good. It's usually in the throat, the heart, of the stomach. Dive deeper. Think of something really yucky in your life. It's not going to be in your arms. Do you feel it in the center core of your body?
I'm not really feeling it there, though.
Okay, that's very good information, because it's there, but you're not feeling it.
Right.
You're disassociated from your body. Okay? You're separated from your body. And this happens a lot. We live our lives in our mind, and we lose power by living our lives in our mind. Our body is the true mediator of what's happening in the world, and then our brain jumps in and says, oh, me, I'm the charge here. And the brain labels things. But what's really happening is in the body. And that's the somatic sense. I was talking about the felt sense a couple of days ago, Eugene Gendlin's felt sense. You have to dive into the body and know it. And what you're experiencing, by the way, of not seeing it, not feeling your body or feeling your extremities in your arms, it's not atypical. It's normal, because we live our lives disassociated from our bodies. That's why we have such crappy lifestyle habits, is because we don't live in our bodies. We don't feel our bodies. So the key to any crappy feeling is to feel it. By the way, there's a really cool lady named Rosenberg. I forgot her first name, Jane Rosenberg, and she has something called the Rosenberg Reset. And I've been meaning to talk about this. And she says that the key to dealing with any kind of stressful situation is to not avoid it, to feel it in your body for 90 seconds. All it takes is 90 seconds. Everybody out there, if you got something crappy that you're trying to avoid, and that's why we smoke, and that's why we can't meditate, and that's why we can't sleep, and that's why we drink and do drugs, we're trying to avoid something. Our whole life is spent avoiding something, and it's only a feeling we're trying to avoid. So dive into that feeling for 90 seconds. It's called the Rosenberg Reset. You can Google it. The Rosenberg Reset. Dive into the feeling. First, for you, Dorian, and anybody else who can't feel it, you have to feel it first, and then dive into it and be with it for 90 seconds, and it will diffuse. And I'm going to talk about that next week, because I've been meaning to cover the Rosenberg Reset and this 90-second idea. All right, thanks, Dorian. I appreciate it. We got to take a break. We got Nancy Dennison coming up in our next segment. We're going to talk near-death experience. You're listening to The Bright Side. Okay, we're back on The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben, and thank you for being here. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific, and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on the archive page at benfuchsarchives.com. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that one up, and also brightsideben.com. You can purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. And we have lots of videos and news stories and blog posts and lots of good health information on all our websites. And then make sure you take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for wound healing. Wound healing equals beauty. And the formulation strategy that I leverage for taking advantage of the skin and taking advantage of healing is now available to you, formerly on a prescription, now available over the counter. You can check out all our Truth treatments. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, water, silicone, vegetable oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Skin Health products. TruthTreatments.com, and our 1,000 plus 4- and 5-star reviews at truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com. All right, I am so looking forward to speaking to our guest. Truly just a heroic woman. You guys know that I've been obsessed with near-death experiences my whole life since I read Life After Life in the late 1970s. Completely changed the trajectory of my life when it first dawned on me that there's a whole other world that nobody's talking about. Now, today it's almost, it's kind of a cliche or a meme. Most people have heard of near-death experiences. There's zillions of YouTubes, and there's Near-Death Experience Radio, and there's IANS, which is a near-death experience organization, and there's peer-reviewed journals. But our guest, Nancy Dennison, she's actually a former successful trial lawyer and health lawyer, as it turns out, for a big law firm. Our guest, Nancy Dennison, not only had an incredible experience, but she's really made it her mission, and I can totally understand where she's coming from, to have other people understand the import of this, the impact of the impact of this, the significance of this. She says in her book, quote, "I learned of our true nature and why we are here, so that more of us may understand that each of us has the power inside to change our life and our future, simply to awakening to the wonder of who we truly are," unquote. And she's made her mission, her life's mission, to help everybody understand this. And it's just, her work is beautiful. She's got 3 books called the Backwards Trilogy. I read the first Backwards book, Returning to Our Source for Answers, a few months ago. And I'm in the process of reading Backwards Beliefs, Revealing Eternal Truths Hidden in Religions. I can't wait to talk to Nancy about that. And then she has 3 other books, a backwards guidebook, and then 2 more books and a new book that's just come out. Please welcome to the bright side, Nancy Dennison. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Ben. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to talk to you. It's so awesome. So we don't have a lot of time, but we could talk forever, really, about, your topic is so huge. Tell us, just in a nutshell, what happened to you, and then what you saw, and then I want to get into the significance of it for our lives today.
What happened was I had an anaphylactic reaction combined with low blood sugar, and the shock of the two made me leave my body and go into the light. And I had the most extensive experience in the afterlife that I've ever heard about or read about. I had a life review. I met my 5 dearest eternal friends. I asked questions that were most important to me and got the answers. I saw all my previous lifetimes. I watched a documentary of Earth's history and future. I watched creation, and I became intimately involved with what I call Source, what people call God.
That's awesome.
It in a nutshell.
That's well. I'm going to get into some more of that, but I want everybody to understand that not only were you a successful trial lawyer, okay, you weren't just in the books. You were out there in the muck working as a trial lawyer, a health trial lawyer, but you also have a Bachelor of Science in Biology, in Anatomy and Physiology, and you have a chemistry, and you graduated magna cum laude. So you are a true scientist and even a true materialist on a certain level. So when you had this experience, were you prepared for it? Had you been reading about near-death experiences? Had you ever heard of anything like this? Was there a shock that was involved?
I was completely shocked. I'd never heard of a near-death experience. And, in fact, I didn't even know I had died until at one point in the experience I looked down and I saw my body sitting in the mammography room without me. And I just thought something wonderful and interesting and exciting was happening. And so I tried to follow along with everything that was going on. The most impactful part of it for me was that it completely changed all my beliefs about myself, about life, about religion, about everything.
So when you came back, did people say, wow, you're different? Or did they notice? Or did it take a while for them to notice?
I think the first thing that I did outwardly after I came back was I left my 270 attorney law firm and went out on my own. People noticed that.
I guess
they didn't know why
I'd
done it.
Now, some people say they come back and they got depressed. That happened to you?
I would say I was depressed because I was so excited about starting my own practice and getting the message out that, I was available. But I was homesick. Oh, my gosh, I was so terribly homesick for about 2 years.
So what would you tell people who say things like, oh, it's just oxygen deprivation. It's a hypoxic event, that your brain is hallucinating based on its lack of oxygen. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
I do. You have to be in your body to experience hypoxia, and I was way outside my body. I have a distinct memory of getting out of the body and going into the light and being able to see the body from the afterlife back on Earth. So it couldn't have been a hypoxic event for me because I wasn't there.
Was there a reality associated with it? It was like more real than your life here? I've heard that said.
A million times more real. In fact, that was one of the shocking things, was to learn that human life isn't real. It's part of your spiritual self is put to sleep. And that's the part of having these human experiences. And then when you get back into your natural state as a spiritual entity, it was like a dream that lasted 2 seconds, but it wasn't real. And that disturbed me.
You mean your life was like a dream that lasted 2 seconds?
Yes.
Yeah, I get a sense of that. It's like when I always thought that when I die, I'm going to look back on my deathbed, I'll say, oh my God, that was like a split second, that whole thing.
That is what happened. So at least that's what happened to me.
That's great. That's awesome. So not everybody comes back and dedicates their life the way you did. Why made you want to do that?
Well, I actually didn't want to do that. While I was in the afterlife, as I said, I asked what I thought were the most important questions in life. Who is God? Who am I? What's the purpose of life? Why am I on earth? Where's heaven? Where's hell? And what's the one true religion? Because I was a Roman Catholic, and I'd always been taught that that's the one true religion. And when I got the answers, and then when I saw creation and I saw the history of religion on earth, I kept saying to myself mentally, somebody's got to tell those people.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I completely understand what you're talking about. We got to take a break, but you also have some stuff to tell us about our life today and about what's going on in the world based on your experiences. So I want to get into that when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Nancy Dennison. Her books are the Backwards Trilogy. Her new book is Create a New Reality, Move Beyond Law of Attraction. We'll be back with more of Nancy on the Bright Side right after this. All right, we're back on the Bright Side talking to Nancy Dennison, near-death experiencer with a chemistry degree, biology degree, and a doctor of jurisprudence. No mere lawyer, Nancy, no mere trial lawyer, a doctor of jurisprudence were you, a true scientist, and yet you have this very, I guess you'd have to say non-scientific experience because there's no really ways to detect it scientifically, I don't believe. Am I wrong there?
I don't. There's no way to detect the experience scientifically, but I did have physical damage from having been dead.
Yeah, and I'm sure they could detect that you were not in your body, your brain waves and heart rate, but the experience itself is about as non-scientific as you could get. I suppose all experience could be said to be that. So in any case, a couple of things I want to cover in our short period of time here is, number one, what is this thing called life? I mean, in order to see life, you have to not have life. You have to stand outside of it in order to see it. We're all in it, so we can't really see it. But you were one of the rare people, one of the few people who actually stood outside of it so you could see it. So what is this thing called life? And is there a reason? Is there a purpose? Is it just to be here? Or are we just organisms for a short period of time for no meaning?
What I saw experiencing creation with and as Source was that Source created the universe mentally, pure imagination, pure thought, pure energy, and wanted to experience that physical universe that it created. And the way it did that was the same way we dream. It created this physical universe and then put its own self-awareness into creatures and things, just like we put our own self-awareness into one of the characters in our dreams. And so that self-awareness is what we call souls.
So we're dream characters, in a sense, in this model.
We are, our bodies are dream characters. The personalities inside the bodies are what we call souls. We are actually Source's own self-awareness and consciousness.
Can we tap into that without having a near-death experience?
We are that. We don't have to tap.
No, but can we consciously tap into it? Yes, we are that. Unconsciously, though, no?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How? Just by contemplating, meditating? How do you do that?
The easiest way I have found is through becoming aware of the present moment, like the mindfulness process or meditation. The key is to get the human mind and all the chatter that goes through our minds all the time, get that out of the way and get absolute quiet, and then focus.
So underneath that chatter, there's probably there's like a still river or like still water somehow where everything is, but we're always in the waves kind of thing. Is that kind of what you're saying? There's a baseline.
Well, the baseline is our spiritual mind, our mind as the soul. And to reach...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh,
I was going to say, you can get to...
We have to...
I'm going to let you go. You're the guest.
To reach that, we have to clear the human mind out of the way.
Okay, so you can do that. That's what meditation is, actually. But you don't need to meditate. Mindfulness will do it. Getting to the present will do it. Power of now kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you want? Now you saw some amazing things. We're in a epochal time. Like the world is changing. It has changed right beneath our feet. It's completely shifted. We did a phase shift March 10th or March 11th when all this stuff happened. So we're all living in it. What do you want people to know about what's going on today and about what's going to happen in the future?
I want people to know that we souls inside these human bodies have the power collectively to change it. I learned in the afterlife that there's a collection of souls that I call all those with an interest in Earth. Anybody who has any kind of an interest in Earth that maintains the manifestation, the illusion, the physical default settings of Earth. And those can be changed through the same process of manifesting. If we turn our attention and intention to creating something better. So we have the power. We just have to get enough people turning their attention and intention to making things better.
So we could have like a heaven on earth kind of thing if we reach a critical mass of consciousnesses or awarenesses who are pointed in that direction.
I don't think it would be a heaven on earth, but what I saw of the future was a much more peaceful third epoch of Earth history where people were more cooperative and there was far less friction and fighting and violence.
How did we get in this pickle in the first place? Why did the world evolve this way?
It's human nature. A source created humans to be just like all the other earth animals. We're violent, self-centered, self-absorbed, greedy. It's just human nature. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe they're stuck with that behavior, stuck with that mindset. They don't realize that as the soul inside the body, we can take control and change the behavior, change the mindset.
So, of course, if they believe it, then that's what it is. And if enough people believe it, that's what it is, right?
Yes.
And that's the world we're in.
Well, if you truly and deeply believe it as the soul, the part of source, what the human believes doesn't matter.
Yeah. How is it, does this strike you as fascinating that all religions and all higher philosophies, even the concept of philosophy itself, is kind of like, they're all saying the same thing? What you saw in a near-death experience, you would be a prophet. You'd be a biblical prophet, literally. If this happened 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, you would be a biblical prophet. It's the same stuff, right?
From my perspective, what I learned in the afterlife is completely different than what religions are teaching. There's a kernel, and that's why my book,
The Kernel.
Backwards Beliefs, Revealing Eternal Truths Hidden in Religions, there's a kernel of truth in all religions, and there are pieces and parts of truth in all religions. But religions are man-made. They're based on humans assuming that God is just like humans, and it's not.
Doesn't that strike you? I mean, when I think of that, as you say it, that's like one of the silliest things we humans believe is this idea that, quote, God, unquote, and I feel, I have a problem with that word sometimes, is like jealous and angry and kills people and all the things that God is, even loving. These are all human they're all anthropomorphized kind of personality traits, no?
Yes, exactly. And the source that I came to know intimately has some character traits in common with humans, joy and curiosity and intelligence, but it's completely different. It has no human physical appearance, no human character traits. It's just completely different.
Okay, so we got last minute here. What's one or two action steps people can take if they want to, without dying, of course, experience something somewhat of what you experienced? I assume that's possible.
To a degree. I was told that we can, through meditation or being present in the now, whatever works for us to get the human mind out of the way, through that mechanism, we can access universal knowledge and get answers to our questions directly into our minds. we can create consciously what we want our lives to look like. Those are the two action steps I would recommend.
Is asking or requesting, can that be said to be part of this protocol, like wanting it, intending for it to happen?
Wanting it is different than intending it to happen, because usually it's the human that wants something. The creative power is strictly at the soul level, and the soul you as the soul inside the body have to put your attention to what it is that you intend to create, and then you have to intend it with a sense that you expect it's going to happen. I mean, it has to be much firmer than just a desire. It has to be, I am going to do this.
So do you think that people have a certain karmic predisposition to how their life shows up? It's out of their control, or is it totally in their control?
Totally in their control.
That's awesome.
I learned in the afterlife that there's no karma. We manifest our own physical lives moment by moment.
Nancy, we're out of time, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and thank you so much for being on the program. NancyDennison.com, and our books are the Backwards Trilogy. I want to talk about your new book. They will have you on again. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
Okay, Nancy. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side, friends. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We will talk to y'all later. Bye for now.